Las Vegas was built to make people forget the desert. Lights never shut off. The fountains kept dancing. The hotels kept rising. The casinos kept glowing through the night like nothing outside the Strip could ever touch them. But just 30 miles away, Lake Mead has been telling a different story. And now, that story is impossible to ignore. The old boat ramps do not reach the water anymore. The marina has been dragged farther and farther out, like a patient being moved from one emergency room to another. Pipes that were supposed to sit beneath the lake now hang over dry rock. Concrete steps that once led families down to summer weekends now lead to dust, heat, and silence. And the most terrifying part is not what has disappeared. It is what Las Vegas has built while it was disappearing. Because if Lake Mead keeps falling, this is not just a water crisis. This is a power crisis, a food crisis, a growth crisis, a question that the entire American Southwest may be forced to answer. What happens when the entertainment capital of the world runs out of the one thing it cannot gamble its way back into? The first warning was not a siren. It was not an emergency broadcast, not a government announcement, not some scientist standing behind a podium with charts and bad news. It was a bathroom sitting in the desert, a permanent restroom built for boaters, swimmers, families, summer crowds, the kind of place that only makes sense when the water is right there. You park your car, change your clothes, grab the cooler, and walk down to the marina. Except now, the marina is gone. Not gone as in closed for repairs. Not gone as in moved a few feet. Gone as in pushed so far away that the old parking lot feels like a forgotten overlook above a vanished world. The water that once lapped near the concrete is now stretched out in the distance, a thin blue strip hiding between brown ridges and white scars. And that is when the scale of it hits you. Everything under your feet used to be underwater. The road, the rocks, the ramps, the dust, the cracked foundations. The places where people now walk, film, and stare in disbelief were once part of Lake Mead itself. Boats floated here, children jumped here, engines idled here, families complained about the heat here while standing only steps from relief. Now there is no relief. There is only sun. By mid-morning, the temperature climbs toward triple digits. The air feels heavy, dry, and sharp, like the desert is reminding everyone who was here first. There is no shade, no breeze strong enough to matter, just the glare, the heat, and the impossible distance between where the lake used to be and where it has retreated. This is not some abstract chart on a water agency website. This is physical evidence. Step after step, ramp after ramp, level after level. A landscape designed around water, now stranded without it. And while tourists are still checking into hotels, while neon still burns across the Strip, Lake Mead is exposing the truth in broad daylight. Las Vegas did not run out of warning. It walked past warnings on the way down. The next piece of evidence sits higher on the ridge, where the old pump house watches the lake from a place that no longer makes sense. This structure was not built as decoration. It was built because water was supposed to be close. The pipes below it were designed to reach into Lake Mead, pull life from the reservoir, and send it toward a city that believed the supply would always be there. But now, the pipes point into emptiness. They stretch down the rock like the remains of some abandoned machine, long metal lines aimed at a shoreline that kept moving away. What used to be hidden beneath the lake is now exposed to the sun. What used to be part of a working system now looks like evidence at a crime scene. And standing there, above it all, the silence is almost louder than the Strip. No slot machines, no traffic, no music pouring out of casino doors. Just heat, wind, rock, and a lake that has pulled back far enough to reveal the infrastructure everyone trusted without ever looking at it. This is where the illusion begins to break. Because Las Vegas has always been a masterpiece of distraction. It sells abundance in the middle of scarcity. It sells fountains in the middle of desert. It sells endless rooms, endless drinks, endless pools, endless lights, endless growth. But the pump house tells a different story. It says every gallon has a source. Every hotel tower has a pipe behind it. Every shower, every kitchen, every casino fountain, every subdivision carved into the valley depends on water traveling through systems most people never see until those systems are stranded above dry ground. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. The lake did not vanish overnight. It fell year after year, foot after foot, warning after warning. The shoreline moved, the ramps extended. The marina shifted. The old equipment was left behind like markers on a disaster timeline. First, the water was here, then it was there, then farther again. And the city kept acting like distance was not the same thing as danger. The bathtub ring is the part of Lake Mead that feels almost impossible to explain until you stand in front of it. It wraps around the mountains like a white scar, a bright line burned into the canyon walls, showing where the water used to sit before it began its long retreat. Above the line, the rock is dark, desert-worn, sun-baked. Below it, the rock is pale and ghostly, coated with minerals left behind when the lake dropped away. That white band is not decoration. It is measurement. It is memory. It is a scoreboard for everything the Southwest has spent, diverted, promised, pumped, sold, wasted, and argued over. For decades, Lake Mead was treated like a savings account that could never empty. Cities withdrew from it. Farms depended on it. Power plants relied on it. Suburbs were approved because someone, somewhere, believed the math would work out later. But the bathtub ring does not care about speeches. It does not care about development plans, casino revenue, campaign promises, or glossy renderings of new neighborhoods spreading deeper into the valley. It only records what happened. Water was here. Now it is not. And that is what makes the view so disturbing. Because the collapse is not hidden in some distant climate model. It is painted across the mountains in a line anyone can see. Tourists can see it. Workers can see it. Officials can see it. Every person who drives out to the lake can look up and understand that the reservoir has been shrinking in public. Still, the city kept growing. More homes, more resorts, more roads, more demand, more confidence. The white ring kept widening while the promises stayed the same. And this is where fear changes shape. It stops being a future prediction and becomes a present landscape. Not maybe, not someday, not if. Here, now, in stone. Lake Mead has been writing the warning around the entire basin for years. The only question left is why so many people needed the water to disappear before they believed what the rock had already said clearly. Las Vegas kept building as if the lake was only background scenery. Every year, new plans arrived with polished renderings and confident numbers. Another neighborhood, another resort tower, another warehouse, another road pushing farther into the valley. The language always sounded clean and controlled. Growth, opportunity, investment, jobs, progress. But behind every announcement was the same quiet question. Where is the water supposed to come from? That question rarely gets the spotlight. It does not photograph like a casino opening. It does not sell like a luxury subdivision with mountain views. It does not sparkle like a fountain timed to music. But it follows every bulldozer, every permit, every ribbon cutting, every promise that the future will be bigger than the present. And bigger is exactly what Las Vegas has been selling. More rooms, more visitors, more conventions, more restaurants, more pools, more homes for the workers who keep the machine alive. The city does not just consume water through spectacle. It consumes water through existence, through toilets flushing in hotel towers, through laundry rooms washing mountains of sheets, through cooling systems fighting desert heat, through kitchens, landscaping, construction, and the everyday needs of millions of people. Officials will point to conservation, and they are right to mention it. Southern Nevada has cut waste, reused indoor water, and paid residents to remove thirsty grass. Those efforts matter. They bought time. But time is not the same as safety. Because while the city became more efficient, the reservoir still kept falling. While people praised smart water management, the bathtub ring kept spreading. While leaders explained how little water the strip actually uses compared with agriculture, Lake Mead kept exposing more rock, more pipes, more ramps, more proof. That is the contradiction at the heart of the crisis. Las Vegas has learned how to stretch water farther than almost anyone expected. But stretching is not creating. Efficiency is not rainfall. Recycling is not snowpack. Engineering is not the Colorado River magically returning to what it used to be. The city can delay the reckoning. It cannot pretend the reckoning is not coming. The miracle that keeps Las Vegas alive is not on the Strip. It is not inside a casino, not beneath a hotel lobby, not hidden behind fountains or glass towers. It sits out near Lake Mead, where engineers were forced to admit what politicians avoided saying out loud. The old intakes were no longer enough. As the reservoir dropped, Southern Nevada built deeper, then deeper again. Intake after intake reached farther into the lake, chasing water as it retreated from the shore. But the most important system is the one most visitors will never see clearly. The third intake and the low-level pumping station, built to pull water from depths that once sounded almost impossible. This was engineering under pressure, a tunnel bored beneath the lake, a massive system designed to keep water moving even if Lake Mead fell below levels that would cripple older infrastructure. It was the kind of project a city builds when it understands the nightmare, even while the billboards keep selling paradise. And that is what makes it so unsettling, because the low-level pumping station is both a triumph and a confession. It proves Las Vegas can innovate. It proves engineers can solve problems that once seemed impossible. It proves the city did not simply ignore the danger, but it also proves the danger was real enough to spend billions preparing for it. You do not build a system like that because everything is fine. You build it because the lake is falling. You build it because the old assumptions broke. You build it because someday, the water might drop so low that every previous plan becomes useless. From a distance, the pumping station looks calm, almost ordinary, sitting against the harsh desert landscape. But what it represents is enormous. It is the last straw reaching down into a shrinking reservoir, a lifeline drilled into the bottom of a crisis. And if that lifeline ever becomes the only thing between Las Vegas and disaster, then the city will have entered a different world. A world where the question is no longer whether water can be delivered. The question is how long delivery can continue when the source itself keeps disappearing. The phrase Deadpool sounds like something invented for headlines. It feels theatrical, almost unreal, the kind of term people use when they want to scare viewers into paying attention. But at Lake Mead, Deadpool has a precise meaning. It is the level where water can no longer pass through Hoover Dam to continue downstream. The lake may still hold water, but the system that depends on gravity, elevation, turbines, tunnels, and releases begins to fail. In other words, the reservoir is not empty, but it becomes unable to do the job the West built around it. That is the part most people miss. Lake Mead is not just a lake outside Las Vegas. It is a control room for the Colorado River. It stores water for Nevada, Arizona, California, farms, cities, tribes, and millions of people who may never see its shoreline. It also helps generate power at Hoover Dam, the concrete wall that became a symbol of American confidence. But confidence does not spin turbines. Water does. As the lake drops, Hoover Dam loses pressure. Less pressure means less hydropower. Less hydropower means more strain on an electrical grid already fighting summer heat. And in the desert, power is not comfort. Power is survival. It keeps air conditioners running, hospitals operating, pumps moving water, elevators working, and refrigerated food from spoiling. Now widen the picture. Downstream farms depend on Colorado River deliveries to grow food that reaches grocery stores across the country. Cities depend on agreements written for a wetter century. States depend on allocations that assumed the river could provide more than it now reliably gives. So when Lake Mead falls, it is not one shoreline shrinking. It is a whole system tightening. Every foot lower adds pressure. Every projection becomes political. Every drought year turns into a negotiation over who cuts first, who suffers most, and who gets blamed when promises made on paper collide with water missing from the river. Deadpool is not the beginning of the crisis. It is what happens after years of pretending the crisis was manageable forever at all. For the people who live in Las Vegas, the crisis does not begin with Deadpool. It begins at home. It begins when a mother hears another warning about Lake Mead while filling a bottle for her child. It begins when a hotel worker drives past brown hills that used to be underwater and wonders whether the city still has a plan. It begins when retirees look at summer power bills and understand that water and electricity are tied together more tightly than anyone wanted to admit. The Strip can hide many things. It can hide exhaustion behind bright doors. It can hide debt behind jackpots. It can hide desert darkness beneath neon. But it cannot hide forever from the reservoir that feeds the valley. Behind the tourist fantasy, there are dishwashers, nurses, teachers, bartenders, mechanics, security guards, construction crews, and parents trying to keep ordinary lives moving in a place that depends on extraordinary engineering. They are not thinking about water law at midnight. They are thinking about rent, groceries, gas, medicine, school, and whether the air conditioner will survive another brutal afternoon. That is why this crisis is so dangerous. It does not arrive all at once. It seeps into daily life. Restrictions tighten, prices rise, insurance changes, jobs tremble, developers reassure, officials explain, residents listen, but they also look toward the lake and see something no speech can erase. Distance. The water is farther away. The ramps are longer. The pipes are drier. The warnings are louder. And the people who built lives in Las Vegas are forced to ask what happens if the city of escape becomes a city people must escape from instead. For the first time, many residents begin to understand that they are not just watching an environmental story. They are watching the foundation beneath their own routines crack. A city can survive bad headlines. It can survive recessions, scandals, and empty hotel rooms. But a desert city cannot survive losing faith in its water. Once that faith breaks, every glowing sign starts to look different, not like confidence, but like denial, burning bright against a dry and narrowing horizon, while the lake keeps pulling back from everyone still silently. The political fight begins the moment the water drops low enough for everyone to feel threatened. Not worried, threatened, because concern can be handled with statements, studies, and carefully worded press conferences. Threat is different. Threat means lawyers enter the room. Governors call emergency meetings. Water managers stop speaking in general terms and start counting SRE feet like ammunition. Nevada looks at Arizona. Arizona looks at California. California looks at agriculture, cities, tribes, courts, treaties, history, and power. Everyone agrees the river is shrinking. Everyone agrees cuts are necessary. Then the real question arrives. Who gives up water first? That is where cooperation starts to crack. The Colorado River was divided during a time when the West believed abundance could be engineered forever. Dams would tame floods, reservoirs would smooth out dry years, canals would turn desert into farmland, cities would rise where maps once showed emptiness. And for a while, the dream looked unbeatable. But the paperwork was written for a river larger than the one now flowing through the basin. So every negotiation becomes a collision between the past and the present. Senior rights, junior rights, tribal claims, farm districts, urban demand, federal pressure, state pride. Nobody wants to be the one who tells their voters, their growers, or their industries that the old promises no longer fit the new reality. Meanwhile, Lake Mead keeps falling without waiting for agreement. That is the brutal part. The reservoir does not care which state has the better argument. It does not pause for lawsuits. It does not refill because officials held another summit. It simply records the imbalance, day after day, as more water is promised than nature delivers. And Las Vegas sits inside that fight with a strange kind of advantage and vulnerability. Nevada uses a small share compared with its neighbors, but the city depends on that share absolutely. It can conserve aggressively and still be trapped in a collapsing system. It can make smart choices and still suffer from decisions made across the basin. Because in the Southwest, water is never just local. One state's delay becomes another city's emergency. One postponed cut becomes one more foot lost. By the time the water crisis reaches the Strip, it does not look like darkness. It looks like contradiction. The fountains still rise, the lights still flash, tourists still pose beneath fake skies, canals, volcanoes, and towers built to make the desert feel optional. But beyond the frame, Lake Mead is shrinking, and every display of abundance starts to look like denial. That is Las Vegas's problem. Its identity depends on excess, bigger rooms, brighter lights, colder pools, greener fairways. A city where nothing is supposed to run out. But scarcity is now standing at the edge of the show. Resorts can point to recycling, efficiency, and desert landscaping. Some of that is true. The Strip uses water smarter than people assume. But Las Vegas sells the feeling that limits do not exist. So when visitors see dry ramps, exposed pipes, abandoned marina levels, and the white ring around Lake Mead, the fantasy begins to leak. They may still come, but the question follows them. How can this place promise endlessness when its reservoir looks like a warning? The spectacle is not weightless. It has plumbing, pumps, pools, laundry, kitchens, cooling towers, golf courses, and bills. Las Vegas can survive bad luck. It can survive fewer visitors. But if it starts looking less like a limitless playground and more like a thirsty mirage, the damage becomes psychological. Because once abundance looks desperate, the illusion stops working. The final warning is not that Las Vegas will vanish tomorrow. It is that the city can keep running while its future becomes harder to believe. Lake Mead is not showing a sudden ending. It is showing a slow narrowing. Retreating shorelines, failed ramps, dry pipes, and officials insisting the system is still managed. That may be true, but it may not be enough. The crisis is about direction. Can the Colorado River still support the cities, farms, resorts, and families built on the promise that the desert could be redesigned forever? Lake Mead is the receipt. Every exposed rock says the bill is coming due. Engineering can buy time, but it cannot bargain with drought forever. This is bigger than Las Vegas. It is a preview for every fast-growing city that ignored nature until nature took control. The question is no longer whether Lake Mead has warned the Southwest. It has. The question is whether anyone will change before the warning becomes history.